So in this video, we're gonna create asynchronous action in React Redux. So there are two types of action we have. We can have the synchronous action and we can have the asynchronous action. So in case of synchronous action, whenever we dispatch some action, the state is immediately updated. But in case of asynchronous action, the state updation does not happen immediately. So it can take some time. Like an example, in real world application, whenever we make API calls to some API endpoint, so this is one time consuming process. So to handle this, we need to have the asynchronous action. So to define the asynchronous action, so first of all we need to define one initial state. Then we need to define the action types, which will be the constants, and then we need to create function, or we can call them action creators. And then finally we need to define the reducers. So first of all, let's now define the state. So we're gonna call this initial state. So inside the object, we're gonna have three properties. So first of all, we're gonna have the loading, which will be initially false, and then we're gonna have the data. So this will be one array. This will contain the data that we fetch from the API. And then we're gonna have the error. So the error will contain any kind of error messages. Here we have to define the constants for each of the type. So let's now define that const fetch data request, and this will have the string fetch data request. Similarly, we're gonna have fetch data success and fetch data failure. So we have three constant for each of the type. So let's now have the action creator. So these are basically functions, and that will return the action object. So first of all, let's just define fetch data request. So the function will return one object with the type fetch data request, and then we're gonna have fetch data success. So this function will take the data as a parameter, and this will return the object with the type fetch data success. Fetch data is successful, so the payload will contain the data that we receive from the API. And then we're gonna have another function fetch data failure. So this function will get the error as a parameter, and this will return the action object. So the type will be fetch data failure, and this will have the payload. Because the data fetching is failed, so the payload will contain the error. So we are done with the action creators. Let's now define the reducer. So the reducer will contain the state and the action, and the state will be initialized to the initial state, and we're gonna switch by the type of the action. So if the action type is fetch data request, so here we're going to return the object. So we're gonna spread the previous state, and we're only going to override the loading. So because we are making the request, so we want the loading to be true so that the loader can be visible. And second case, if we have the fetch data success, then we are going to return. So because the data fetching is successful, so the loading will be false, and the data array will contain action.payload. So there will be no error message, so error will be blank. Now we have the third case, which is fetch data failure. So if we fail to fetch the data, in that case we are going to return. So here also the loading will be false, and because we are failed to fetch the data, so the array will not contain any kind of data. Here the error message will have the action.payload because we have failed to fetch the data. And also we can optionally have one default case where we're going to just return the state. So we are done with defining the reducer. Now finally we can create the store. So to create the store, so we can import create store from Redux, and then we can create our store, and here we can pass our reducer. So this is the way we can create our asynchronous action, and we can define our reducer, and finally we can create one store with that reducer. So that's it for the video. See you in the next one. Take care.